Hi, I'm Kate, and I'm here at the Canadian Science Policy Conference with Anton Holland, the president at NIVA Incorporated, and I'm here to ask him some questions. So to start off, if you could describe a little bit your work at NIVA, what the challenges are, and how it relates to science policy.
Okay, great. Well, NIVA is a company that carries out science, technical, and risk communication. So we have a lot of opportunities to start with. And we work in just about every subject matter area, from fisheries to pharmaceuticals, nuclear energy to Earth observation, defense and security to antimicrobial resistance. And we do upwards of 40 projects every year, so things are always new and exciting for us. And our staff consists of people who have had a science career path and those who are career communication professionals. So the creative tension that results in naturally leads to a lot of innovation. So we start off with that great basis. And in terms of challenges with respect to science policy, I think as much as there are people who work in the area of science policy who really get that there is an essential need for good science communication, there's also always a need to continuously cultivate other people with that sensibility. So it's a constantly changing landscape for us that way.
Right. So your panel yesterday was talking about the barriers to science communication. Could you give an example of one, either a really big barrier or one you think most people don't know about?
Yeah, well, one that really wasn't covered in the session yesterday, and I think that most people don't realize, is it's really their own biases when they come to something. So if you work in an area on a day-to-day basis, you may not intuitively realize that other people may not arrive at the same conclusions that you will, even though that you know that those conclusions are so obvious, right? So you have to continuously work to understand your audience, what their needs are, what their concerns are, what their fears are, in fact, in some cases. You have to build their trust, and then, of course, effectively execute on that promise in order to have a successful outcome.
Right. And you'd mentioned earlier about people who understand the importance and the value of good science communication. So could you give an example of that impact of that good communication?
Right. Well, good science communication in general is when we're able to communicate to whatever audience, what scientists do, how they do it, why it's important. And great science communication, of course, is when we have an impact on society when we're doing that work. It's often difficult to determine when you've had that impact. That kind of retrospective analysis is often hard to do. So I'll give you an example of what I think is a big one, right? So back in the 80s, the science communication surrounding ozone depletion, I think, was a critical factor in getting people to put pressure on governments and for governments to respond positively in that regard, signing on to the Montreal Protocol, banning the use of CFCs. And so now, decades later, we see the results of that, where the ozone hole, as they called it at the time, is showing significant signs of repair, which has a major impact on the health and well-being of people around the globe.
Right. Yeah, that's a huge impact, repairing the ozone layer.
Exactly. And in that particular case, there were some very clear and simple messages about what the problem was and the way it was described as well. Even the fact that they called it an ozone hole, while that is not necessarily an accurate description, it did paint a picture for people, right? It presented what seemed like a big problem. It's a hole, but it was also a problem they could deal with. I can fill a hole. So there were some concrete things they could relate to that, and that got people thinking that there's a solution.
Right. Yeah. Great to have people thinking about solutions like that.
Yeah.
So we're here at the Science Policy Conference, and I was wondering what you thought was the greatest value of this conference.
Oh, really? Yeah. Well, I think the CSPC does a lot of great work throughout the year.
Yeah.
But this conference really is a great place to concentrate a lot of brain power in the area of science policy and all of the other associated areas of interest. And I really think that this CSPC conference has been a critical factor in raising the discussion about the need for science communication in the whole science policy realm. I've been at this a long time, and I've seen the history of that trajectory, and certainly the CSPC conference has been a catalyst.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great to hear. Definitely been having a lot of interesting conversations here.
Yeah, it's really grown.
Excellent. So thank you so much for your time and your insight.
You're welcome.
And I'm wondering if there's anywhere where our viewers right now can go and find you for more information.
Yeah, well, you can go to our website, www.niva.com, that's NIVA.com. We also have a Twitter account and a YouTube channel, but if you go straight to the website, that's a good place to start.
Excellent. Great. Thank you very much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your conference.
I will indeed. Thank you very much.